Morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for our webinar, Functionality in Dynamics GP compared to Dynamics 365 Business Central. Today's presentation will be focused on accounts receivable. My name is Katie and I will be the facilitator today. So if you have any questions during the presentation, please type them into the question area in the control panel on the right-hand side of your screen, and we'll answer questions at the end. This session will be recorded and posted on our blog as well as shared with you early next week. Now, I would like to introduce our presenter today, Don McNulty, who is a solutions architect here at Encore. Don, I will pass it over to you.
Thanks, Katie. So this morning we're going to talk about GP and compare it to Business Central. Most of the people that are attending these seminars are using GP today and are considering moving to Business Central in the future. So we're going to talk about accounts receivable. Now, inside accounts receivable, what we're going to do is we're going to go through the customers. How do we add a customer? What does a customer card look like in comparison between the two? And then we're going to talk about posting groups. Now, posting groups mean different things in the different systems. Inside GP, we refer to these mostly as classes. This is where we set up our defaults for the individual customer, as well as a bunch of GL codes that go with it. The posting groups are where we store the GL codes for the customers. And then we'll jump into transactions, do a few transactions. We'll do two types of transactions. We'll just do a quick sales invoice, which allows you to do things to generate an accounts receivable in your outstanding thing, as well as a journal. And a journal is equal to what we refer to as an accounts receivable transaction. The sales invoice is a cross between that and a sales order processing invoice. We'll then look briefly at the cash receipts so that we can see how we put the money in, how we receive the payments and bring them in. And if we got some time at the end, we'll just briefly talk about trial balances and things like that. So let's talk about accounts receivable. So let me bring across my demo screen. So underneath Great Plains, when we issue a new customer or we bring up a customer, we bring up error and fits. So this particular customer, what I have done on this set of data is that I have Great Plains running here with the sample company. This is the World Online, what used to be the World Online, now called Fabricam. I've also replicated that into Business Central so that all the customers and vendors and all the GL codes are exactly the same. So what we do on one side, we can also do on the other. So inside here, we have a screen-based, and this is all screen-based. So everything inside GP, as you know, is screen-based. You open up a screen, you enter in your information, you put in your name, your address, give it an address code. One comment I will make is that if we're going to do a migration of your data and try and migrate your data as it is and move it across into Business Central, there are a few gotcha fields. One of them is this one right here. This one here is 15 characters inside GP, but is only 10 characters in Business Central. So if you've got anything that's longer than 10 characters, you can run into issues when it tries to truncate that down to 10 characters. We have some utilities that take a look at that, which we can run against your database. Again, we have certain information inside here about the customer. We then go to another screen, to the options. We can see the percentage discount and things like that. So these types of pieces of information are all available inside there. Attached to each customer inside GP, we have GL codes. And these GL codes reside against the customer ID. And so each customer can have his own set of accounts. In Business Central, it is done through a posting group. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't have a posting group that is equal to the customer, so that you could have as many posting groups as you would like, and so therefore you could generate the same kind of different GLs for each one. Most of the clients use a class, and those classes are what we convert over to the posting group inside Business Central. So once we've done that, we click on OK on that. We check all our options, our emails and things like that. We got additional addresses, and then we just hit save, and this saves the document. Anything that I do inside here does not get saved into the database until I hit save. Now, when I move over to Business Central, this is Business Central. So the core page home page looks like this. And when we go into sales and we click on customers here, and I'm just going to make that stay on the top there, and I'm going to go customers. There's my customer, and as you can see, there's Aaron Fitz. It gives you a list, much like a smart list. Gives you a list across here, which gives you some information. These can be changed, and you can add and subtract different fields, so you can default what you would like to see about a customer on a default field. There's also additional information about this. If I click it tells me how many ongoing sales orders, sales invoices, posted documents, etc. have I got. 104 GP receivable transactions, 85. This is in my history file that I've managed to migrate across. When I open up a customer and I just click on the customer and it brings it up, it comes up with the standard information. Now there's always a show more here. So when I click on the show more here, what happens is that we get additional fields. And you'll see inside here, I've got my credit limits listed here. I've got my total sales. This is anything that's gray is not editable. It's coming from the posting of the documents, so the balances and things like that. But you can block this and you can make this ship all or ship partial, privacy blocked, etc. So this is what the general header of a customer looks like. As we move down and we go to the address and the contact, I can show more, which I will do so. So down inside here, I got address 1, address 2, same as you've got in GP. One thing I will mention is that the phone number inside Business Central is numeric only. So if you've entered any of your current customers as 604-123-12345-1234 X102 for extension 102, we need to go into that system and remove the X before we can use that as a number inside Business Central, because Business Central needs it numeric only. And you'll notice here it's got the extension listed at the end. Same thing on the fax number here. That's the extra zeros at the end of the 10 digits. So that is how it stores it. Contact names and things like that are also available. As we move down, we get into a lot more information than we may have in GP. You'll see on the side here, it shows you some of the defaults that have been set on these things without having to open them up. So I can tell here that this is a 2% 10 net zero customer. I've got a shipping from the north site. Partial shipments are okay, and we use the overnight courier. So we can see this without opening them up. But as I open something like this invoicing one up, and I bring this up, it shows me this. And what I can see is I can see my GST or HST registration number. I'm in a Canadian company. You would have a tax number there if you had one. Tax liable, is it tax liable? What taxes is going to be assigned to this particular customer, and whether or not he's got any exemption numbers. Then we get into the posting groups, and these two posting groups is where we find our different pieces of information. So if I click on my customer posting group, which is the posting group that we're looking at, if I go show details, it comes up and it shows me that this is the receivable account. It also has a place inside here to add your payment discounts accounts, trade discounts accounts, invoice rounding, and things like that. So these particular tolerance percentages and stuff like that are all set against the customer posting card. Now, when I close this, if I go to the general posting account, and underneath my general, and I'll show details here. There it is there. And when I click on setup, what we have is this is the general posting account. And as I move across here, you'll notice that we've got a whole bunch of accounts for sales. We have some purchase accounts. We have some cost of goods accounts, as well as some vendor subscription and customer subscription accounts. So all of these accounts are set against the general posting account. We can then apply the general posting account to items or to customers, and then the one that merges together properly is the account that it will choose. That's how it selects the general ledger account inside Business Central. Let me just get out of here. So I can show less, and then it just shrinks the invoicing down a little, gives me a little less information. If I go into my payment side, it's fairly straightforward. I've got my 2% 10. I don't know why it says net 0. If I click on this and was to look at this, it probably should be net 30. Let's go show details. It got truncated. So there it is. It's a 30 days and things like that. And that is because it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It's a 10-digit code where it's a 15-digit code inside GP. So it truncated it and moved it in one decimal, one digit. So that's why we've got that. So it must have been a net 030. So that is what has happened on this particular one inside here. So we can go like that, but that's why it's not net 30. You can check your format date inside here. If I'm writing, if this is also the check date separators. Some countries, Canada included, the banks have requested a specific format, and indicators have to be put on the check. In the United States, it is almost always MMDDYYY. In Europe and the rest of the world, it is DDMMYYY. And in Canada, it depends what province you're in as to which is the most common. Quebec tends to use the European method, whereas the rest of the country tends to use the American method. Okay, you can use a dash or a slash or whatever you wish. Underneath your shipping side, you've got a number of things inside here. You've got your ship to code. Ship to code is the same as a ship to address, and that ship to address, again, as I said, is 10 characters instead of 15. North is there, optional for the reserve and things like that. So that's kind of what a customer card looks like and where the accounts come from. There are some statistics underneath here as well. Let me just show you those. And that is basically showing you this is what you've done with this particular customer. This is the equivalent of the GP customer summary. So when you're in the inquiry screen inside here and you go into customer summary, you can get information inside here, as well as you can get information under receivable summary, which gives you this, as well as yearly and payment summaries and things like that. So you can see your different information that you need in order to calculate things like NSFs and things like that. This is all set right on the customer card or held on the customer card. So there it is. There I can show more. And if I show more, I get a few more fields on here, late payments and last payment and overdue payments. And it gives me a graph that's nice to look at, things like that. Okay. So that's how a customer card is then done. So let's talk a bit about GP. Back to GP. I'm going to go back to GP here. I'm just going to close all my windows so I don't get in the way. And then I'm going to do a transaction entry. So inside GP, we have three methods of entering transactions, two that are used, one that is only used by customers who have been using GP for over 25 years. Sales order processing, which is sales transaction entry. This is how you enter a transaction when you have an item code. In other words, I want to take something out of inventory. If I do not want to take it out of inventory, I can either enter it here with a non-inventory item, or I can use the transaction entry. Transaction entry is used by people for importing transactions from third-party systems and things like that. I'm going to stick with this one. And as I go through, I just create a new document as such. I'm going to put it into a batch called test. And yes, I want to add the batch. And yep. Oh, it's got unbilled. Okay. Let's go test one. We'll go save. Test one. There we go. We're going to use Aaron Fitz again so that we know where all the information came from. He's got the net 30 payment terms and things like that. And then we can come down into here and we can put in the $1,000 that we've got in revenue. Now, I can also put a cost in here. If I put a cost in here, it's going to debit inventory. It's going to debit cost of goods and it's going to credit inventory. Some people use this, but I would say 90% do not. So I'm going to leave it blank at this point. When we hit distributions, it picked up this information from the customer card. And it says, okay, this is the sales account for $1,000. I got $70 in taxes, and receivable is that. And this one's happy to be calculating commission as well because I got it attached to a sales rep. I do not calculate commission inside Business Central at this point, just simply because of setup. So I go, okay, I can now post this, and it will then process this all the way through. That is the screen entry. So I enter this, I check my distributions to make sure that if I wanted to change my revenue, say this is $500 here to one account, and then I go to the bottom here and I go 000411002. I think that one exists. It does. I hit sales. Whoops. And then I put in another $500 here. And I shouldn't do that. Let's go $400 and let me go $600 so we can see the difference. There we are there. So now at this point, this is a balanced journal entry, not a problem. This will post properly through. It'll put $400 to this account and $600 to this account. And I can click OK, everything's fine, and then I can hit the post button and it will hit those GL codes appropriately. I'm just going to leave it at this point and hit the save. And then I'm going to go over to Business Central and I'm going to do the same entry. So underneath the entry, there's a couple of ways of handling it. You can do a sales invoice, and a sales invoice looks more like a sales transaction entry screen, but is very useful for this particular piece because what we get is a grid. I'm going to add a new one here. Just going to go new. So it automatically pops up with a new invoice number. There it is there. Now the customer number. I just need to know something about the customer. If I type in AA, it's going to find Aaron Fitz, and then Aaron Fitz, there it is, automatically puts the pop-up number in. You do not need to continue to use like 3 and 3 or 4 and 3, or you can use numeric numbers because all you need to do is type the customer name in either of these two fields and it will do an online lookup as it moves through. It's got the same information that you saw against the header. There's some information in through here. Salesperson code is also attached here. As I move down into my detail lines, this is a grid-based system, so everything's on the same grid line. So I'm not using an item. I'm just hitting the general ledger. So inside here, I'm going to go up here. I'm going to grab the GL code. And when I hit the GL code, I'm going to go to here. I'm going to go 4110. And when I do that, it's going to say retail parts. There it is there. There's the description, not a problem. North code, that's fine. The quantity is 1. Whoops. The unit of measure is EAC. Just put in each. And then the unit price, including tax, is going to be $500. So I put my $500 inside here, pops through here. I'm going to make it taxable. And I'm going to go GST, HST only because that's the one I've got set up. And now you'll notice down here I've got my $30 in tax. When I cross to here, there's my department code. So this is my department code, which is the 0. I use the 000 and then 02. And then if I click beside here, this is where I can get my division code, which is where I can pick up my 000 if I want. So now this is going to generate the same entry. So at this point, I'm good. I don't need a product code or anything like that. I can then go down to the next line and I can enter in whatever I need to do inside here. So I can go 4110 again. US retail parts, North 1, each, $400, and I should have made this one $600. So let me just do this and go 600, like so. We click on the GSTP at GST, and we come across here, and I'm going to add my 000, just so that it works exactly the same way. So there it is there. There's my taxes down there. And then if I go up to my preview posting, so I can preview my posting inside here, comes up with my GL entry. It's 3 lines. There it is there, $1,000, $60, and $1,060. So I've got I only have 6% tax listed inside here. I do not have the same taxes set up. I changed them on to make the GST. So it's a 6% tax. There it is there, and it's coming through properly as required inside here. So there is your taxes and things like that. Your debits and your credits, everything you'll notice is Division 2, 00, and then 4100. So you've got exactly the same journal entry. So this could then be posted, and then once it's been posted, it's then available for us to pay. So all you have to do is hit the post button inside here, and you can finalize the document and it posts it, and that would be the end of it. At this point here, you can also print this invoice, and if I print this, I'll hit a draft. And I'll hit preview. Won't take that long. And this is an improvement from there. So as you can see inside here, I've got a description. The description shows up. It shows up the lines, and it shows up the total tax and things like that. And I can break the tax out at the bottom. I can put shipping methods in. I can put the salesperson in. This particular screen is a customizable field or a customizable report. We can change this to do what you wish so that your sales invoice can then go out to your customer. You can also email this if you wanted to. There is an email functionality inside here as well, so that I can send this by email. There's a send to at the bottom there. So that's how you enter a transaction inside the sales invoice. The other option you have is that there is a journal, and you can just hit the sales journal. So when you click on the sales journal, it just gives me a list. So this is there's the Aaron Fitz, and there's a couple of line items inside here. I can come down to here. I can enter a new invoice number. I'll give it a new invoice number 1234, and then I'm going to put in 4110, and it will automatically fill this in. I can go into the document amount, and I can say this is $500. Whoops, or $400. And then if I move across to here, depending on where I have them, I probably have my descriptions, my department codes and division codes down here. These are easily moved. So if you want the department code moved, it's very easy to move things inside Business Central. So that gives me the, you'll notice here it's automatically done this. I'm going to need to put a customer against this. And I got to put Aaron Fitz. So I just type in the double A. There it is there. And I put in the amount of the invoice. Now the difference here is that I've got the amount here is going to be minus 1060, like so. Okay. And now there's no GL codes attached to this because it's attached to the customer. And then if I go back to the front here, I would need to go into each line item and enter it. And then this one becomes a GL code. And you just enter in what you need. 500. Oops. 600. And then if I go across to here, I should have actually pushed in the department code of 02, department code of 01, and now we're done. Here we are. And then if I scroll to the front, I then need to add the taxes. Right now, if I was to try and post or preview this, if I go post print, I can preview the posting. It's going to tell me probably that something is out of balance, right? Batch, default line, something's out of balance. It's telling me here that it cannot be zero. So there's a zero line on that particular transaction. But the idea behind it is that you do everything by a grid. The thing about the grid is that you always have the opportunity here to open it in Excel. And then once you've opened it in Excel, it'll open up in exactly this format. You can make any changes you like, and then you can copy and paste it on top of this and overwrite it. Because it's unposted. If I edit in Excel, it actually edits and allows you to republish back into Business Central. Very easy to do, and all grids can be imported from copy paste instead of just the GL one that you get inside GP. So that's how you get a cash receipt in. So then the next thing, of course, is how do I move into cash receipts? So I want to receive money now against my receivables. So what I've got inside here is, you'll notice inside here there is nothing here that says cash receipts under sales. It's not a sales function, it's a cash management function. So underneath here, I have my payment journal, my cash receipts journal. Hit my cash receipts journal. There it is there. I have to select whichever one I want. I'm going to hit the cash receipts to the first bank. So it's going to put it into a bank account. And then I enter in the amounts that I wish to put inside here. And then I can apply these to on the lines. There is an application, approvals, and incoming document. And then under process, you can renumber. And then under manage and post and print, you can then do what you need to do. Underneath the page, we show lines with issues. So this is how we would do this. And then as I move across inside here, if I go like this, and oops, like so, and I put in a bank account, and I go first bank, and I'm going to put in $1,000. There it goes to the bank account and then applies, and then the apply to document type. It's a payment and invoice, and then apply to document number. I can click on this here and it allows me to put in the, so I put in invoices and then I can place the invoices inside here. Okay, so then it's a matter of how I push this through and things like that. So I put it to the bank and away it goes. And that's how the cash receipts go in, very much like GP. Inside GP, as you're well aware, we have a cash receipt screen. Like all things, we have screens. Like so, and we put in the check amount and then we hit the apply to apply the check against the amounts outstanding. So that's kind of what we would do on that side inside here. If I go to my payment journals inside here, this payment journal is a check run. This is how I run checks inside payables because they combine all payments inside the same thing. So the cash receipts journal allows me into that. General cash receipts. And then we've got a customer inside here. I put in the customer, put in the amount for the check, put in what kind its offset goes to the bank. And then as I come across to here underneath the payment, I can then apply my list. And here's a list of all the outstanding transactions that are outstanding to Aaron Fitz. And I just select the ones that I wish to take. The ones that are red are already been applied, so I can't assign those. So that's going on there. I've got $655 left to apply. Okay. And then on the second one, I did an Adam Park. So that gives you an idea of how that works. So you put it against the customer, and then the bank account goes across to the first bank here. Okay. All right. Reports. So underneath reporting, when you go into all reports inside here, there's a number of different reports to pay based on what you need from Business Central. So on the side over here underneath finance, we're going to go to receivables. We're going to hit reports. There's 27 different reports. There's customer trial balance, detailed trial balance, and things like that. There's an aging summary simple, and then we've got some other ones down below here and inside here. This is the aged accounts receivable file, so we'll click the aged accounts receivable. I'm using 2029 because my data is in 2027, sorry, not 2029. And length of the period is 30 days and things like that. I'm going to hit the preview. We'll just let it run. And it will run off and tell me this is summary. This is showing my 30, 60, 90 days, the standard accounts receivable aging. And if I go to the very end, I get totals at the bottom of how much my AR should be, and it keeps it balanced, like you balance to your trial balance. In GP, you have two options. You have the ability to do that with reports inside GP. You can use the trial balance, and then you can either use the options or historical. The option gives you the ability to filter it, but only open transactions. And then historical age gives you a historical aged report. Okay, back to a specific day. All right. So that's kind of the reporting that we do in AR. Statements are available in both systems as well. So you can run statements in both Dynamics GP and in Business Central, depending on whether you need it. And the statement can then be pushed out by email to the customer using either system, as long as you're on a current version. All right. So, come on, there it is. Questions. Does anyone have any questions? That pretty well does everything that I wanted to cover today. I wanted to make sure that it was nice and quick and that we had time for any questions at the end. Overall, it's a grid-based versus a non-grid-based, and the editability and imports from Excel are extremely important, especially when you've got large cash receipts. You may want to balance them in Excel and then import them into Business Central. All right, Katie, do we have any questions?
Thanks, Don. So again, if anyone does have any questions, please enter them into the question area in the control panel. And in the meantime, I'm going to share a link to our events page because we do have one more session like this that'll be covering inventory coming up on June 12th. So I'll put that link in the chat there. All right, so I have a question here, Don. That is, do you have an option for creating batches in like you would in GP?
Yes, it kind of does it automatically. So as I go through, so if I'm going into my sales and I take a sales invoice, for instance, this by itself is a batch. So these are unposted transactions, and I can keep adding unposted transactions. If I wanted to post anything inside here, I can select more, and then I can select multiples. I can select number 1 and number 3, or I can select, if I select, let me just select more. Whoops, click too fast. Yes, I know that. Are you sure you want to exit? Yes, has been saved but not yet posted. So as I move in through here, I can then put this into here, and then I can go select more, and I can pick whichever ones I wish to use. So that's kind of what we do inside here. That kind of puts it in a batch by itself, and I could select 1 and 3 and 5 and 7 or whatever it was, and then I can post these accordingly. And that way they will work their way through the systems, but there's no real batch assigned as such. When I go into my cash management and I go into cash receipts inside here, these journals are kind of batches. Test 1 or test 11. And it is going to be, balance type is going to be a bank account. And the balance account number is going to be First Bank. There we are there, and we go like so. And then when I come out of here, test 11 will be here. And now when I click on test 11, there will be a blank line here, and I can come across here and go customer and Aaron Fitz, put in $100 or $1,000, and then move across to the applies to. Apply type is payment, and then the doc type inside here lists off all the transactions that are outstanding, so I can select the one that I wish to do. And it takes 983 because that's what it was. The balance is 1983. That's a credit note, so it must have taken the wrong one. So if I grab this one here and we go OK, and then it will apply to the appropriate transactions as you need. Amount must have a value, etc. I've got a few things that are missing, but that's okay. But that the idea is, and then if I come out of here, I now have a transaction inside here. I can now post this from inside here. I can go post and print. So I can hit the post here, and it will post this batch of cash receipts. The transactions then automatically flow into your bank rec for that, so that your bank rec is up to date with your transactions. And you can summarize these as a single bank transaction so that they become a single bank transaction inside the bank rec, because your bank itself will put one number in for a single deposit during the day. So if you've got 10 checks, for instance, you put them into a single batch, you post them all, and you put them in as one particular piece of information. So that's your bank deposits and things like that. So that's kind of how you handle that, which is the same as the way GP handles it. And I covered a little of that in the bank rec module and the GL and the bank rec version of this seminar series about 6 weeks ago, I guess it was. But it is available online, and Katie, it's available on the blog. So, okay. Any other questions, Katie?
And yes, that bank rec video is on our blog, and you can get to that as well. The recording through that events link that is in the chat. Next question here, Dawn, is how to apply for credit. How would this apply for credit, I believe?
Oh, for you apply credits and things like that. So underneath your apply, you can use the apply through the credit. I don't have any credits to show, but the idea behind it is that you would be able to take your credits, any of your credit memos, and then apply them to outstanding invoices. Okay, so you can then apply them on an individual basis, just like GP's got the apply. It has the same functionality in here. Okay.
Any other questions that are coming through? That's good. I'm also going to go, so in the chat, I'm going to add a link where you can set your email preferences to opt in or out of emails to stay in the know about any upcoming events, as well as see your latest blog articles. Right, so it doesn't look like we have any other questions, Dawn.
Good. Yeah, so we've got a number. This is the third one of these that I'm doing. I'm doing a fourth one in June on inventory. I've done GL and bank rec. I did AP. I did A. This is AR. I'm going to be doing inventory, and then we'll take the summer off and probably start it up again in the fall for some other ones like sales order processing, purchase order processing, and a little bit more detail on the distribution side. So the idea is just to get you comfortable with what you're moving towards. As you can see, this is not an upgrade. This is a migration of data from one to the other. I have migrated all the data from Fabricam, so I've got all the detailed all the transactions. I did put some inside there as well, which is what you saw against the customer card. That can be either done directly into Business Central, or it can be done into an Azure data lake, so that we can store all of your history so you've got access to it for reporting purposes. We recommend the data lake because of size. Depends on how big your GP database is. If your GP database is less than 10 gigs, it's quite okay to put it inside Business Central. You won't have a problem. If your database is in the 20 to 30 gig range, then yeah, you probably do not want to put it in Business Central. Business Central, because it's a hosted system, has a limit on the size of your database, which GP did not, because it only was by disk space on your SQL server. So we want to try and maintain a fairly small database if we can to keep underneath the standard one. You can always expand it. It's not that Microsoft stops storing data at the 80 gig limit, which is what they say online, but it is not an inexpensive thing to do to add. They add 100 gigs at a time. So, but the 100 gigs is like $500 a month, so it's like $6,000 a year. So it's it's quite expensive. If you need it, it's great, but if we can avoid it, we try to keep you underneath that 80 gig limit. Okay.
All right, thanks, Dawn, and thank you everyone for joining us today. We hope to see you at the next session. We also hope you enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks all.